Morning Date. Welcome to another edition of Morning Date, a segment where I get to sit and chat with outstanding figures from all fields and all walks of life. And today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Mr. Vikram Doraiswamy, Ambassador of India to Korea, who was appointed last year in April of 2015. Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for coming to Morning Special and welcome to Morning Date.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So let's start with a greeting for our listeners, if you don't mind.
안녕하십니까 여러분. 저는 비크람 도레스와미입니다. 반갑습니다. 오늘 초대해 와주셔서 진심으로 감사합니다. My little bit of Korean.
I see.
배우고입니다.
Well, I see you've been studying Korean since you've arrived.
I have indeed.
How many hours is it a regular thing for you to study Korean?
Well, I try and put in about 2 hours a week.
Really?
Doesn't get to be that as often as I'd like it to be.
Sure.
Work gets in the way.
Well, it's pretty impressive.
Well, it is what it is. You've got to try and learn a language when you live in a country.
It's true. All right. Well, tell us about yourself before we talk about India and Korea and the relationship, politically speaking. So you've been here for a year now. And where were you before that? How did you end up coming to Korea?
So that's a story in its own right. I was actually appointed in October of 2014 to Uzbekistan on my first ambassadorial assignment.
Okay.
And we had kind of just about got settled when the government kind of decided, based on my previous East Asia experience, I've served for about 7 years in the China area, that they wanted an East Asia hand in Korea. So I got relocated at pretty short notice to Korea in like less than 6 months.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, so it was a surprise for you then.
A very pleasant one.
Yeah, right. So what are your impressions? You've been here for a year now. Was this, when you came on this assignment, was this your first time to visit Korea?
Actually, yes. Oddly enough, among my many years in Northeast Asia, I've never actually been to South Korea before. And this is despite the fact that when I was learning Chinese about 25 years ago in Hong Kong, half my class, in fact, some of my closest friends, I was about 22 then, were all Koreans.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, and they didn't pressure you to come and visit them at that time?
Well, we wound up eating a lot of Korean food, and since they were all young guys like me then at that point of time, we wound up drinking way too much. So I got quite familiar with some of the Korean ideas of how best to enjoy a sports game.
There's certain aspects of the culture, huh? We have a message for you already, sir. It's from Chaebong Nim, and it says, "Nice to meet you. What a great Korean speech. Thank you, India and Korea. I think we are well connected."
Fantastic.
Well, let's use that as a segue, shall we? Let's talk a little bit about the relationship between the two countries. I always enjoy it when a visiting ambassador comes to EBS because I think it's something that we don't realize or we don't think about on a daily basis, the great relationships that exist between Korea and other countries. So can you tell us about that?
Well, that's actually a pretty good start to a conversation because, I think most people, both in Korea and India, don't really get the depth to which we are connected. Many Koreans know this perhaps better than Indians do, which is that historical record suggests that an Indian princess came here to Korea in AD 48.
Really?
So that's like 2,060 odd years ago.
Oh, wow. I'm hearing this for the first time as well, yeah.
And she married a Korean prince in the town of Gimhae, or the Principality of Gimhae as it then was. And that lineage, essentially, if you trace it back, the Gimhae Kims and the Hers are essentially people with an Indian ancestor, which would mean something like 8% of the population of unified Korea would be of Indian origin.
Well,
so we got lots of family here.
Yeah. There are now people who are rushing to check out their family tree.
There you go. All Kim Kims, come home.
To see if they are Indian royalty.
There you go.
For sure. All right, well, let's take a break. And when we come back, we'll get more into the details of Mr. Ambassador's life here in Korea and certain projects, perhaps, that are happening between the Embassy of India in Korea and the country itself.
Great.
We'll listen to a song from A.R. Rahman and Dollar Mendy and Chitra as well, Rang de Basanti. Carrying on now my conversation with Mr. Ambassador Vikram Doraiswamy, Indian ambassador to Korea. Let's talk about Indian culture and the things that the embassy here tries to promote to Korean people.
Well, thank you for that opportunity. Basically, we have, for the last 3 years, set up an Indian cultural center here in Seoul. And last year, we established one in Busan also. So the effort in both places is to open up opportunities to teach yoga, Indian dance. That includes both classical and Bollywood, since you're playing Bollywood music today, and also language. And we're trying out a few more interesting ideas, including culinary classes, cooking classes, carom, which is a board top game which is played very popular in South Asia. So the idea is to open it up to as many Korean friends or third country friends who are interested in Indian culture. And what I want to be able to say is that we'd like to have more people come, both to Busan and to Seoul, to our cultural centers. But beyond that, we also want to try and do an annual Festival of India.
And there is one coming up.
There is one coming up, exactly. Third week September to the first week of October. It'll include film, it'll include food at with our partner hotels, the Millennium Seoul Hilton and the Park Hyatt in Busan. It'll include dance, music, so fusion music, in fact, so it's not just classical.
Sure.
And the sort of concluding act is on October 2nd, which is a holiday weekend. We have a big bash at the Mulbit stage in Yoido, which is open to the public. It's all free. So, people should roll up and come in and see. There's music, there's dance. There'll be a carnival atmosphere also, including stalls selling sort of Indian stuff, trinkets, food, the works.
Sounds fantastic. So that's the third week of September through to the first week of October?
That's right.
And where can people find information about that if they're
on our
interested?
website. And of course, we will also be putting out brochures and advertising on our Facebook and on our Twitter account, and including on Naver Cafe. In fact, some of our colleagues, our Cultural Center Program Director, for instance, is on Naver Cafe. So we try and get out as much information on social media as possible.
Fantastic. Well, you mentioned Bollywood and the fact that we're playing Bollywood music today. There's a lot of bilateral trade between Korea and India's movie industries. And again, that might be surprising for a lot of people. Both countries have very impressive film markets, don't they?
Right, absolutely. So 1 in 5 films produced anywhere in the world is produced in India.
1 in 5.
1 in 5. So that's 20% of the world's production of movies.
20% of the movies in the world come from India.
Absolutely.
That is a fantastic factoid.
And taking that beyond, essentially, there is great interest in India in trying to discover other film cultures. So this year, for the first time, our international film festival, so like the Busan International Film Festival, we have one in Goa, which is a great seaside place. It's held every year in November. This year, the focus country is Korea. And there's a whole package of Korean film that's going to go across with Korean directors, actors, and so on and so forth. So it's a huge opportunity to promote Korea. And what we'd like to really see from that is to have partnerships set up in shooting film footage in each other's country, which would essentially mean, Indians travel wherever Bollywood movies have been shot. So to give you an example, in 2001, a very popular Bollywood movie was shot. Bits of it were shot in New Zealand.
Okay.
And literally tens of thousands of Indians started traveling to New Zealand thereafter. So it's a huge tourism multiplier, quite apart from culture.
The opportunity
absolutely
is a huge one for sure. Now, what about, you mentioned the fact that this film festival in Goa is going to be a great opportunity to promote Korean films. But what about Korean culture in general in India? India is a huge place, of course. But we talk about the Korean wave all the time, the spread of Korean culture, including food and music and film. Do you see it rising there?
Oh, yes. There are actually K-pop clubs now in cities like Bombay and Delhi.
Really?
Including in the northeastern part of India, which is geographically pretty far from the sort of capital. It's picking up in popularity, but the things that really are, in my view, not yet known well enough in India is Korean food. Most Indians have a fondness for spicy food. And Korean food actually really hits the sweet spot. And there's a fair number of Korean restaurants that started opening up, but primarily serving the expatriate Korean population.
Okay.
So there is an opportunity there to actually get it mainstream and get Indians to recognize just how great Korean food is.
Oh, very good. Very, very good. Yeah, you're right. In that sense, in the spicy sense, there are some similarities between Indian food and Korean food.
Some of it can be really hot.
And also, both countries' dishes are incredibly complicated in terms of the number of ingredients that go into one dish, right?
Absolutely.
So there's lots of similarities. Now, there's an event coming up on August 15th, where the Embassy of India, they're hosting a cultural event to celebrate the joint Independence Day of Korea and India. So can you tell us about that a little bit?
So here's another wonderful piece of I don't know, synergy, if you'd like to call it that. Both countries got independent on exactly the same day, 15th August.
Oh, really?
Yep, just 2 years apart. 1945 in Korea, 1947 in India.
Oh, wow.
And we like to underline the point that here's another perfect piece of natural resonance between both of us. Obviously, it's a holiday in India, but it's also a holiday in Korea. So what we try and do is to have an open event at which we try and involve local partners. Last year, we did an event in Busan. We had a Coast Guard ship visiting us. And so we did an event up there in Busan. This year, we're working with the Dongguk University.
Okay.
And we're going to essentially put together a small cultural event, but it's an open house kind of thing. So friends of India, Korean friends of India, welcome to join us at Dongguk University, and of course the Indian expatriate community, to celebrate what freedom means to both of us.
Very nice indeed. And again, the list is long, I guess, of what is shared, what the two countries have in common. Mr. Ambassador, you mentioned the cooking classes that are available before. Are you teaching any of those cooking classes yourself?
No, you'd really want to have food that's edible, wouldn't you?
So he speaks Korean well, but he's not so handy in the kitchen. Is that fair?
That would be a fair assessment.
Okay. Well, Indian ambassador to Korea, Mr. Vikram Doraiswamy, thank you so much for coming to Morning Date. I thank you so kindly for being here and sharing your story with our listeners today. Best of luck with the event on August 15th. And I, for one, hope to be at the event in September or early October to see the Festival of India as well. Also, don't forget that you can find out information about that Festival of India on the embassy's homepage,
Right.
or on their neighboring cafe,
Or on Facebook.
or on Facebook as well. Mr. Ambassador, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity of being here. And just as I like to tell all of my Korean friends, 인도는 한국과 찰떡궁합입니다. 감사합니다.
Oh, you're making me look bad. Thank you, sir.